We're doing 2 for dudes today.
2 a day.
2 a day like Valley High School.
Big Y'all Take 45 live morning show. Good afternoon. I know most people is my age and 45 age probably at home watching the news right now. We're going to bring you the news for the news. We here at the very important meeting about what the city is trying to do with the whole Gayfers building.
It's talking about making it now some residential.
Affordable housing. So we're here.
Some people don't feel that, some people do.
Old man Sam Jones behind 45 head.
Is it?
Yeah, we here. Yeah, he just sat down. I ain't got nothing to do with what she said. We got your dad Sam Jones sitting right there behind 45. Oh yeah, a little bit white. Seeing that he just stood up. Stood up right there. At least he know how to move his head.
That's what she said. In her mouth.
What? In your mouth?
In her mouth.
Oh. We here, man, with a lot of people in the city, as you can see. Let me y'all see. Nice group of people. Remember they all behind me at 45. Still rocking that Moshe for District Attorney 2022. Make sure y'all get out and vote.
November 8th. We got black women running for governor too. Talking about
so we can really make history because we got a black Democratic candidate who's running for governor against Governor Meemaw. Let's see can we get a black governor, a black district attorney, and also a black district attorney and a black
sheriff.
Oh boy, look here. We'll be doing so much right now.
City.
Chocolate State.
We really behind because Birmingham got a black
mayor.
Montgomery got a black mayor. We had a black mayor.
I don't think Mobile has ever had a black sheriff.
So, there ain't never been that many in my lifetime. Tom Purvis, Jack Tillman,
Sam Cochran,
and now
whoever wins.
They saying Paul Birch already got it.
Well, you know, what's up, Shannon? Miss Jackson. Are you by any chance from kin to James Lewis Jackson?
It's a possibility.
Yeah, we are right here, second row. Well, I might say front row because ain't nobody sitting in front of us. And we're gonna give y'all the meeting as, you know what I'm saying? And have us should be gonna start in just a minute. We just wanted to come on a few minutes early.
How do y'all feel about them trading Davis to affordable home apartment? I think that money could be used to revitalize Happy Hill or either Roger Williams.
Oh, I'm good without no neighbors right now.
Oh, you are?
I think I used to the little peace and quiet we get over there. She said you never know. Jackson in her mom's maiden name.
Oh, okay.
Well, y'all might want to look into that first cousins.
Yeah. Well, we already got a name of slave on it, so.
For real?
Yeah.
Mine then. Ancestry.com let me know that.
Oh, okay.
Wasn't no whooping going on over here, B.
Oh, okay.
I got a lot of German in me. That's crazy. Hitler boys.
Somebody in your family black cat here.
Somebody. I don't know who they was. Yeah, I think my grandmother them caught here. No.
Don't forget it. May 28th. May 28th is going down at the last stadium.
And that Fantasy Cinema Club.
I got the tickets on sale now.
And we got a special guest right next to 45 right now.
Who that?
I don't know, but that's just your special guest on your side.
That is McCool.
Let me turn the camera. My last name is Booker. We two are German
We all
descent.
knew with all kinds of stuff. Japanese, Indian, Chinese,
it's just whatever your mamas, our mamas was they was mixed with whatever our daddy was.
Who they mixed with? You don't know this folk mixed it.
Whoever stuck their spoon in the pot.
You can be me with Viking and Jamaican.
I just said whoever stuck the spoon in the pot.
Yeah.
That was just me with
a lot of sticking in the pot.
You know how you know when you ask somebody before, hey, you got the black in you, and they say no, and you be like, you want some?
Plenty of time.
There it is.
But sometimes it works.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? All right, there we go. Jalapeno pepper.
Yeah, I had seen a lot of ranch jalapeno peppers at the Hangout Fest.
That's Kim.
Oh yeah, Kim. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So we getting ready for the meeting. Hopefully, you know what I'm saying, it's a good meeting. Hopefully, you know what I'm saying, somebody can learn something.
Share, and it's Kim.
Hey, Kim. How you doing?
She know the lingo. She know it. But tomorrow I won't be here. I'll be at the Wharf. No, I'll be doing a graduation. I do the Wharf Friday, so I won't be at City Council meeting.
Okay. What about the show with Zyrina?
We're gonna do that in the morning.
Okay.
Well, sometime in the daytime, around about 1.
That'll be fine. And then I'll come back later on with the City Council meeting.
What up, Tiffany, man?
Y'all go ahead on and share, man, because it's gonna be a very informative meeting.
Yeah, it's gonna be too long.
I think the mayor's gonna walk in as well. That me and 45 and we was white. That me and 45, y'all. Y'all get y'all laugh on, right, fam? That me and 45 that we were born white.
No way. I know. Oh, that's like a light.
I seen that. That was me and 45 that we were born. It's two white men. 45 said no way.
No way. I was like,
I don't know, this. A lot of people here, we didn't think it was going to be this many people driving to see. People all backed up behind us.
The old Gayfers. Bring back the old Gayfers, all I say.
Yeah, all over there.
Bring back Gayfers. Damn that residential.
Bring back Gayfers.
Yeah.
Man, with that inflation going up, we don't need no more stores. We need some farmer markets. We might need to go move down Bottle County, off County Road 13.
What's out there?
Groceries.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Showed up. I went up the Beach Expressway and nothing but cornfields.
Oh, you better think I'm a picture for it,
Jalapeno. That jalapeno.
Nah, he
What up, man? To make a PA?
Amanda, what's up? They got us up in here in the meeting for to find out what's gonna go on with the Gayfers
The old Gayfers building
downtown.
They're talking about making a residential affordable housing.
So we here to see. Got Councilman William Carroll over there in the cut. And there he is over there. Right there. I'm pointing to everybody out.
Got Sam Jones in the building.
Yeah, y'all just me and
You know, Sam Jones don't go nowhere, so you know it.
y'all just missed me in 45 in another flesh color. We was standing up there talking.
I don't look like them purple woods.
I think it could have might pop across the back of the head over there sitting on the side and let y'all see him. Look at you holding the head like I'm popping right there. We'll have it all.
You gotta keep your hands to yourself.
We'll have it all on film just in case we gotta go to court.
You gotta keep your hands to yourself.
But one thing about it, we're gonna make 1,000 memes about that picture. To the full court. And there's Miss Carroll just coming in. So we're gonna get ready to turn the camera around. Y'all tune in. Big Y'all J45 live morning show.
What they say, thank you for what?
For those of us that are not able to get out.
Oh yeah,
these
you will.
meetings.
Thank you for watching. Share, and caring.
I didn't see it in my email. Where is it at today?
Just email it to us. You weren't the last one to get a calendar. We need to get a calendar and everything.
Yeah, I do.
I didn't get a calendar.
Dara's ridiculously organized this year. Who's organized? Darla, negotiates campaign manager.
Oh, so you full? I think
I heard the pros and the cons of it.
they probably come to every
I mean, the
city.
pro is we do need affordable housing. The con is we ain't gonna be down there.
Yeah,
Gotta be what?
we're not gonna be down here.
Right. I'm saying they can take the money and revitalize Bars and Winds and Happy Needle. Put some affordable housing on there, on that land. And
I thought you had someone like that.
no, they tore the whole
I know, but I thought they had those what do you call it? You live in there for a couple of years and then you.
That's in Orange Grove. They don't have it in Happy Hill or Broad. They flatline both of those communities.
Well, see, the problem is they only have $8 million. Because if you don't have a developer that's going to fund the rest of it, you're not going to have anything.
Cassandra.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
Are we ready?
Developers are not going to stick any money in. You know, there.
Are you ready?
So it's either the $8
I can
million.
wait. We're gonna wait on the meeting set.
Use it.
I'll wait.
You can't get matching
Mario,
funds.
Ready.
Are y'all ready?
See, so that's the dilemma.
Someone in and hit the shell button.
Everyone that
Matter
is
of fact, let
streaming
me.
this meeting live, are y'all
There's
ready?
not a lot of units.
I
There's not
can't.
a lot of units. Now
I can't be ready. Mario,
Ready.
Cassandra. This meeting is being streamed live on 3 different channels. For those that you guys are not aware, it's on the City of Mobile
Sophia.
Council page, the Council's page.
Donate to,
It is
fund
on
that.
William Carroll, Councilman District 2's Facebook page. It is on the Mario J45 and Mario Yao Morning Show's Facebook page. It will be stored and reposted on my YouTube channel if you don't get a chance to see it tonight. So it will be available for everybody's access. We're a few minutes behind, but since we are starting a little late, Reverend Titus Thorne, I saw you in the audience already. If you would, as usual, somebody always starts our meetings off with a short prayer. If you could.
Let us bow our heads.
I don't think that's video, man.
Gracious eternal God, we're grateful and thankful that you allowed us to see the cares of another day. We pray God for this meeting. We pray God for the success. We pray God for this person's gathering. Bless us in Jesus' name. Amen.
All right, well, first let me say good afternoon, good evening to everyone, and thank you all for coming out to this meeting. This meeting is to have a presentation on the Gayfers building downtown, which is on Dolphin Street in front of Business Square. It's a historic structure, been part of Mobile for a very long time. And it's to have the developer present, discuss, and tell us everything about the building itself. Tonight, we're also going to be able to have your questions answered from the developer and their team tonight too. So as we go through this presentation, I ask you all to be patient, aware. If you have a question and we're moving along, please write it down or hold it. When we get to that point, we will answer as many, if not all, the questions we can tonight. If we can't, then please submit them to us and we'll get an answer to you after tonight. We will also be taking questions from the streaming service too tonight. So if there are questions that you get to us via Facebook or YouTube or wherever you go as we go along too. So we don't slow the night down. May I introduce to you the developer for this project, which is the Gulf Coast Housing Partnership, is Executive Director Kathy LeBeau, and she will introduce her team to you. And she will also, after that, we will all present it. And we'll come back after that time and answer any questions. There are 2 screens up tonight. Everybody may not be able to see all the way to the front, but you will be able to see everything on the presentation on all screens. Thank you.
Good evening, and great turnout, and I first want to thank the councilman. You may or may not know that he did come to visit with us in New Orleans, to visit with us firsthand, and he asked me to show you the presentation we gave him. We have shortened it up a bit, because we figured you probably wanted to hear a little bit less about us and a little bit more about the Gayfers building, but you're still going to have to suffer through a few slides about us. Okay? We are based in New Orleans. My glasses on. I won't take notes since no one's going to ask me a question during the presentation. GCHP was started because of Katrina, and that was in 2006, believe it or not. Sure. We were started in 2006 in New Orleans with seed capital from Housing Partnership Network and Enterprise Community Partners. And with that money, we grew from a one-person operation, and my title is President and CEO. We now have 92 employees. And I have a few folks with me that I'd like to introduce. You'll hear from them later on this evening. DeAndre White is a regional manager with our property management team. We brought him along in case you have any questions about the property management side of the shop. Gretchen Headquarters is our chief compliance officer. She is actually was our second employee. Okay, so she has been with us for the duration and can pretty much handle any question you may want to offer. And Tom Champion, who heads up our development and construction teams, and he will talk specifically about Gayfers. So you can ask him your questions about that. We work across the Gulf Coast region, and since our inception, we've done over 4,000 units. We either newly developed or we buy units and preserve them, renovated them in that continuum. We produced over 400,000 square feet of commercial space, and we're managing right now about 1,900 units. In terms of the community spaces that we do and the commercial spaces, we lead with residential, and then we'll follow. We frankly find that when we're populating or repopulating neighborhoods, then other things are expected from us. Health clinics, behavioral treatment facilities, office buildings, retail spaces. So we follow with that after we have, in some cases, repopulated areas that either suffered disinvestment or were never populated before. Because the populations we serve, and we're affordable housing developers, if I didn't mention it, we are a nonprofit. We're governed by a 15-member board. 2 of our board members, by the way, are from Montgomery. I'm sorry, one's from Montgomery, Gary Cobbs, and one's from Birmingham, United Bank, Senior Vice President Joseph Rance. We are capital stackers. Populations that we serve, affordable housing populations, our populations are generally earning less than 80% of area median income. If you do the math, rents that those folks can pay can only support so much permanent debt on ventures. So those folks that are developers in the audience, you understand what I'm talking about. You know, real estate is a function of debt and equity. That's how you finance your deals. And when you're dealing with lower income populations, there simply isn't the revenue to support a great amount of conventional debt. So you have to bring in a tremendous amount of non-conventional debt or equity. We do that in 2 ways. We basically, you call it capital stacking. We do it with tax credits. We do all kinds of tax credits. We look for buildings that have financial attributes, such as historic buildings or buildings in locations that would generate access to tax credits, or because the areas that we work in throughout the Gulf Coast, our states don't have state housing money. The money that our states use to develop affordable housing is really a redistribution of federal dollars coming into our communities. We also use a lot of grant money. Okay, so federal subsidies are coming to us into the states. So we either get funding through a state, a locality, a parish if you're in Louisiana. It could be a city of Houston, for example. We're getting borrowing, community development block grants, home dollars, federal home bank. We have great competitors with federal home loan bank systems throughout the nation. Neighborhood stabilization program, that is federal money. And then CED grants, also federal dollars that we compete for annually for projects that comply. Our corporate office is on Aretha Castle Haley Boulevard in New Orleans. Anybody that is familiar with that boulevard knows that it bisects an area of town, and it divides Central City from the Irish Channel and the Lower Garden District. Okay? We opened up our office there in January of 2006. This is what the neighborhood looked like before we started. And after we invested about $200 million, this is what it looks like now. This building you see is occupied by the New Orleans Redevelopment Authority. Okay, we own this building. They are our anchor tenant. The bottom floor is a series of retail and office kiosks. Iberia Bank, First Horizon Bank sits here. We have a gymnasium here. We have some political offices here. And directly across the street, you'll see later on in the presentation, we're building a multi-story development. Right there. This is a sample of all the buildings that we have done on the boulevard, about almost 800,000 square feet of development. Everything you see in red are our ventures. And the whole purpose of what we do in neighborhoods like this, we want to be the incentive that causes other people to follow. In investing the way we do, we then ensure that folks that have lower incomes will not be displaced from the neighborhood when the market comes in. And we welcome the market coming in because we think that makes for a healthier living environment for everybody. Our property management office is based in Baton Rouge. We have invested a tremendous amount in an area called Mid-City, which again is right outside downtown. Unlike Aretha Castle Haley, which is the redevelopment of an existing urban thoroughfare that was disinvested probably over the last 50 years, this was an area that was never developed in Baton Rouge, that is right outside downtown. We bought all that land, and we've developed all that land, and we've added about 600 units. We've invested about $100 million in that area. I'm going to stop for a minute because I'd like DeAndre to come up. He is a regional manager. I want him to tell you a little bit about the populations that we serve and the work that he does.
Thank you, Kathy. Good afternoon, everyone. Just a little bit about us and what we do in our property management team. We service a large amount of people. We service large groups with different demographics. We focus on the 1,900 units that we manage, and we have 85% of our units are housed by residents with 60% within the AMI. We have 15% were within the higher income residents, and we house people from the ages of 18 to 65. We work diligently with everyone within our portfolios, no matter who you are, no matter how much money you make, how much money you don't make. We treat everyone equal. We take pride in what we do in our property management team because at the end of the day, we are in the business of serving and providing housing for everyone that we come in contact with. We also have 15% of our housing stock is occupied by seniors. As she stated, we have some new developments that are getting ready to come on. I know she's going to get into that her and Tom. 19% of our occupancy is also throughout our 1,900 units are occupied by residents that would happen to be qualified as being disabled. So what we do again is we provide housing to everyone. As Kathy stated, We don't want anyone to be displaced, and we do our job as making sure that we reach everyone. They always say that age-old verbiage of it takes a village, it takes a lot of people in order to make sure that housing is provided. So I'm not going to belabor any more time, so I'm going to give it back to Kathy. That's a little bit about us in the housing property management team.
I'm going to show you a few recently completed projects, and then we'll show you a few things under construction, then we'll get into the Gayfers building. Okay. This is actually a wonderful venture for us because this sits in Lockport, Louisiana, and Hurricane Ida, the eye of the storm, went directly over this project. And much to everybody's surprise, it survived. What you see there was what we saw after the hurricane passed by. Okay, it was an extraordinary event. It's an extraordinary venture because this one was actually a competitive project put out there by the state to develop resilient housing that would survive a hurricane. The day before Hurricane Ida hit, several of the buildings were placed in service, and so we had to get insurance. Nobody wanted to insure it because there was a hurricane coming. It hadn't hit the Gulf yet. And any developer knows once it's in the Gulf, you cannot get insurance. We made it by the skin of our teeth. The hurricane hits, the insurance company goes berserk, the drones fly over the site, and the site was unscathed. Okay. So we're very proud of this venture, as is the state. It is the only building that was habitable after Ida in Lockport. This is in downtown Houston. Just finished it. I think we're still waiting for the permanent C of O. We got the temporary C of O. Did a ribbon cutting last week. This is downtown Houston, Minute Maid Stadium, Buffalo Bayou. First workforce housing built in Houston in decades. Okay, special needs housing has been built in downtown Houston, but no workforce housing.
No what?
Workforce. Affordable workforce. Okay. City of Houston, in terms of subsidy, $120,000 a unit. The City of Houston lent us to develop this venture. The prior venture, the Lockport venture, the state put up $200,000 a unit to result in those units being completed. This is Country Club Estates. This is recently finished in Montgomery. This is a partnership with Volunteers of America. This is seniors housing with a set aside for veterans. Under construction right now, you can see kind of shaded away. This is actually in Baton Rouge, in that mid-city neighborhood, 116 units, one bedrooms, partnering with East Baton Rouge Council on Aging. Okay, in their quest, when they came to us, they really wanted to target even lower populations that we normally house, but they have, in their case, they have the financial wherewithal to help subsidize it. They have great services in terms of food provisions, senior citizen center that they recently built, and other services that they provide, so they're a natural partner, great population, and we'll start moving people in here in a few months. We also have under construction, we have two ventures right now. We were fortunate to win. We were one of 900 applicants in a competition that Wells Fargo and Enterprise Partners put out there with regard to, scalable ideas with regard to affordable housing. And ours was about embedding healthcare into housing ventures and then engaging public health experts to quantify the health outcomes. Okay. Our theory is that if in fact better health care, accessible health care, results in lower health costs to the insurance industry, then we think the insurance industry is a likely contender to invest in affordable housing because they'll understand the algebraic equation a little better than they do right now. So of the 900 competitors, we were one of 6 that won. We won $2 million, and we took that $2 million, and I'm not permitted to announce their names, but there's 2 MCOs, one in Louisiana and one in Mississippi, that bit. Okay, and the one in Louisiana, they gave us a very extraordinary pricing on this venture. They bought the low-income housing tax credits. This is 192 units with an on-site health clinic that's now under construction across from that building I showed you earlier on the Castle Haley building, Boulevard. One of the buildings is workforce housing, 100 units. The other will house seniors, 92 units of seniors housing. And then the health clinic will be embedded under the workforce housing building. And this is the second health and housing venture, but second pilot project, different MCO. However, in this case, this is a former Holiday Inn that we have torn down, just came down this week, around construction. This building came down, this we're renovating, this has ARP funds in it that the city, the county put in. The city also put in money. I think we have about $60,000 a unit in subsidy in this venture. There'll be 76 units of seniors housing. This clinic will be a family clinic that's open into the entire community and serve not just seniors but all residents. The other thing we're doing here that's unique, Jackson State University, the Medical Mall Foundation, they had come up with a community health worker model. It's successful, and successful means better health outcomes at a lower cost, but they can't get funded. Okay? And in learning of their quest, we figured, well, we could help them come up with a better way to execute their mousetrap. Okay, so we're embedding a healthcare worker actually on the site, and that person will be able to care for far more people than they were before using a different model that we're exposing them to. And then we get to the Dolphin Building. I'm just going to paint a little bit of picture about this building and then hand the mic over to Tom. This building was owned by somebody else. In 2015, they were planning on doing market rate condominiums. For whatever reason, they couldn't make it work. The building came on the market. We learned about the building and we were very intrigued, quite frankly, first by its location. A downtown location for affordable housing is not always available. In a market that we could clearly see what was happening in terms of the hotels and the apartments that were on the drawing board and that were beginning to be built, and that were not going to address a need that all communities have. There is not one community that we have been to that has a plethora of affordable housing. It is the opposite. So we were intrigued by the location. What's so good about the location? The folks that live here know it better than we do. There are many, many wonderful things that surround this building. There are parks, there's education, there's green spaces, there's theaters, you name it. Right? So why wouldn't this be a great location for all citizens that live in Mobile? We also then looked at the demographics of who does work downtown, right? What are the areas that are growing, et cetera. And this information is available. These are the footnotes. You can look it up yourselves. Your fastest growing downtown jobs are a combination of food services, healthcare and social assistance, and transportation and warehousing. And what are those wages for those jobs? Okay, this is our source. Okay, so these are weekly wages for those jobs that are growing in your community. And then what does that mean? Okay, so folks have asked, when we quote AMI, that's area median income. Okay, area median income, I believe, for a family of four here in Mobile is around $68,000. And so we are looking at housing folks that are the highest would be the 60% AMI income tranche, and then lesser. So if you're making those incomes and those households, then that means you can't earn more than, for example, if you're a 3-person household, you can make as much as $35,280 and still qualify to live in one of the apartments. Tom, I'm going to hand it over to you.
All right, thank you all very much for being here. I'm Tom Champion. I'm our Senior Vice President over our Development Group. I'm actually a Montgomery, Alabama resident, born and raised, but I've been fortunate to have the opportunity to work with Gulf Coast and our nonprofit for about the last 10 years. As Kathy pointed out, the affordability, just some kind of basic information on the Gayfers building. For those that are my age and older, you certainly remember Gayfers, I imagine, growing up, as I did. Our main department store we used to go in. This is, of course, a historic building. I think it's C.J. Gayfer, that was a English immigrant in the early 1900s, started his first mercantile store. So this is where Gayfer started. In the 1950s, it was then expanded considerably, about 90,000 square feet, and ultimately to about 100,000 square feet. And the building has been deemed historic by the National Park Service, largely because of its role in the growth of department stores and mercantiles, and then department stores after that. So we've been working along as we go through our design very closely with the National Park Service towards their approval of our plans. It does, somewhat limit what we can and can't do. We do a lot of historic development, but it's also, as Kathy mentioned, a very good financing source, and we believe in historical preservation. Again, if we can get rid of block that's there now, we can preserve a historic building, and we can provide affordable housing that can be there long term as downtown grows, and particularly rents rise in the market rate apartments in this area. That we're preserving a place for people to live and work with all of those attributes. We get very excited about that. As you can see here, this just kind of shows a very basic of the original building, about 100,000 square feet, and then we're about 14,000 square feet, a story and a half on top. That the National Park Service likes to see you kind of set that back, so you're kind of really sticking with the historic facades. And then you really offset the top of it. You make it look different. You're not trying to make the top parts look like the old historic pieces, because they want to see the differences there. Let's see, a little just kind of basic. You can see the square footage that's there on about a little over 100,000 feet of rehabilitation, historic rehabilitation, and new construction piece. So we're going to be about 114,000 total. In terms of the units that will be there, you see that 72 ones, 21 twos, just a couple of 3 bedrooms. When you're dealing with a building like this, it always has odd angles, odd turns. It's always a kind of a challenge. But we were able to carve out a couple of 3 bedroom units within the building that made sense for a total of 95 units. Some of the basic amenities will be, we'll have a fitness center. There'll be a variety of rooftop patios, gathering spaces for community events for people to use. On the ground level, we will have covered parking under the building, as well as surface parking and a lot behind the building. Each unit will have washers and dryers installed. We will have on-site leasing and management offices that will be, staffed always during normal business hours with emergency call potential if there's a problem at night. We also started putting in package locker systems. We found those are great, where there's Amazon.com or whatever, so much e-commerce now. Residents find that fantastic. Not really on here, but we'll have full security systems, camera systems, monitoring. Will be controlled access to get in and out of the building for our residents, and those types of things as well. Bear with me. Very sensitive. We've got our bedroom types again, but you see in terms of what we talked about in the affordability, we will have 19 units reserved for residents that earn 50% of the median income or less, and then we'll have 76 units reserved for residents at 60% of the area median income. All of these will be affordable housing, and we're committed to keeping this building as affordable housing, again, long-term, 30-plus years, through LURAS, through the state land use restricted covenants. Projected rents, right? That's a big piece. For those of you that are familiar with downtown Mobile, some of the new loft developments that are very similar to our development in terms of the units and what they provide and all those types of things. Our projected rents are right here for bedroom, 647, 2 is at 769, 3 is at 881. That's really less than half of what people are paying in the Newtown downtown loft developments to try to keep this affordability in place for people living and working. They can live and work anywhere. We can't restrict something to downtown, but particularly for people living and working downtown, close to all the jobs that are available. Just a couple of renderings for inside a one bedroom and a three bedroom unit. Again, when we talk affordable housing, our expectation is that you walk into our development and you can't tell it, you don't know it's affordable housing. It's exactly like a market rate development. The only difference is that it's going to be reserved for people with lower incomes that will have lower rents. All right, in terms of the financing, as Kathy mentioned, it takes a capital staff to be able to do these projects. So you see we have a permanent debt piece, which we have sized based on what we know is happening, increased interest rates that are coming our way. We have low-income housing tax credit equity is the single largest source. We've already been approved for those funds from the state agency who handles that in Alabama. We have federal historic equity. We have state historic equity, which is just now available to us. We've been on a waiting list for the state historic equity for 2 years. It's oversubscribed. And as other projects have fallen out, we finally have the availability for that state equity. You see the American Recovery Act fund from the city. You look at that number, and you can very easily tell the project is not possible without that funding. And then we're very thankful for the Mobile Housing Board, which is loaning us $1 million as well. And then GCHP, our organization, at 1.9 that we're committed to kicking in there. So overall, it's a $32 million development. You see the acquisition. The largest cost is obviously the improvements. And then you've got all the financing costs and fees and soft costs and bond costs and legal costs, and the list goes on and on. Okay. And we just thought this was interesting that we would share. We've got a couple of, we've had a few people ask, well, this is a lot of money, and it is a lot of money in terms of the city dollars and the federal dollars going in. So this is just a little listing of our number of our projects that have federal funding involved, and you can kind of see that's broken down. Gayfers is right here, so you can see how that shakes out to about $84,000 a unit, and you can see on our federally funded projects that it falls right in the middle. Particularly now, Kathy showed the McKee City Living, which is a similar demographic we're after, really workforce housing individuals close to downtown. You can see it was significantly higher at $120,000 a unit. The city of Houston was with $14,500. And then also the resiliency project. We do try to build resiliency into all of our projects. For that matter, we have a best practices now, basically, from our Les Maisons project. So how do we withstand storms? So we're always going for energy efficiency. We're always going for resiliency, the materials that we use. But you can see that project was at the top of the list at $200,000 a unit because those things are so, because many of those things we work to build in are very expensive. So basically, we take a project and we kind of tailor it based on the financing we have to build in as much resiliency, as much energy efficiency, to give us long-term operating and better for the residents, particularly if they're paying electrical bills and all those types of things. That's a big push of what we're doing internally now as well. Okay. So then what I wanted to do is also talk a little just introduce Gretchen Headquarters. We can build this and we can work, these projects take a long time to put together, a number of years generally. We are often in the business of working with our partners to take their visions and try try to make them realities. It doesn't happen overnight. But after all that work and all that construction, that we finally get the project financed, closed, built. This is roughly a 14 to 16, we're still tying that down construction period. So it will take a while to close. We are well in the process. We expect to, with all of our approvals, we expect to submit for permitting. We'll be going before the Architectural Review Board here. We made it through most of the National Park Service. We need to get that part up along to know when they go, so we'll be going to the Architectural Review Board, finalizing plans, submitting for permitting roughly in September, and if they, with everyone's support, things go well, we'll be under construction by the end of the year, and then complete, like I said, in 14 or 16 months. But that's just the start, and so that's why I wanted to ask Gretchen as well to say a few words, because we do that, but after that point, how do we manage our properties? How do we handle our properties? How do we oversee our properties? Gretchen's our chief compliance officer, and if we don't do a good job after this, once we build it with our residents, our maintenance of the building, and all those types of things, then all those efforts are gone. So, Gretchen.
Thank you, Tom. Good evening, everyone. My name is Gretchen Headquarters. I'm the Chief Compliance Officer for GCHP. I've been with the company for, this is my 15th year. You have heard a lot from Kathy, from DeAndre, from Tom. A lot of work definitely goes into a new project, anything that we build. And it is my job, I'm over multiple things, compliance being one of them, insurance, legal matters, property inspections. But the key to all of this, of course, as Tom mentioned, is, there's a capital stack and putting the deal together, but we want to make sure that the property is maintained. It's wonderful, and I'm excited to see so many people turned out. It shows that there's an interest in what's going on in your city and your town. You have a vested interest, whether we're hoping to get this approved, but you want to know what's going on, and I think it's great. But my job is to make sure that this asset is preserved. Most of the time, I'm not liked, not by the other people in the audience, but by my own folks, because I'm tough, and I love being tough. I want to make sure that our residents are protected, and I want to make sure that the blood, sweat, and tears that went into putting that deal together, it is not in vain. So, whatever it takes, I'm going to make sure that it gets done. I don't care if I ruffle the feathers, that is what I'm here for. So when the project is under construction, I'm going to go in, and my job is to, when I'm meeting with architects and engineers, and I'm doing my punch walks, if I'm not satisfied, they got to make me satisfied. So we're going to walk, and we're going to walk again, and we're going to walk again, until Gretchen says it's a go. And that's going to take several times, because we're not going to take the keys on something that is not acceptable. A lot of work went into putting this together. So we're not going to accept junk. We're not going to have junk around the corner. You're not sitting here to accept junk. And so we're not going to have it either. One of the other things that I'm responsible for, of course, is inspections after the tenants move in. Periodic inspections. The asset, again, still has to be maintained. I want to see well-lit stairwells. I want to see that there are no trip hazards. I want to know that the residents are maintaining their units. If you're not, you're going to get a lease violation. If I come back, you're going to get evicted. We're not slumlords, and we're not going to allow you to stay in our property. It's just that simple. are trying to put forth our best effort to have something that's shining, is a shining example of what everything else should be. We are very proud of what we've done thus far. We're going to continue to do great work. That's what we're about. That's why I'm still here 15 years later. I'm very proud of all that we've accomplished, and I know we can do so much more, and it is exciting. And I look forward to any questions that you guys may have.
That's our story. So I'm happy to answer any questions. I feel like it's your call how you'd like to do that.
We'll probably take and try to answer all questions that we can. We'll stay as long as we have to, and so that it doesn't get too late. I'll start up here, and I'll work my way through the entire room, and we'll answer as many, if not all, that we can. Okay? Cassandra is on the left, I'll be on the right, and she will keep that moment. Go ahead.
All right. Hey. No. Oh, it's on. Okay, maybe I'm just not used to it. I have a question. There it is. I have a question. I saw in the presentation that you guys discussed AMI for 3 people in a family, 4 people in a family, but the majority of your units are 1-bedroom units. Is there when you think of affordable housing, I think people are thinking about families, but 1-bedroom apartments makes it hard for families. What do you guys say about that? Is there a need for 1-bedroom affordable units here?
Absolutely. Okay. Yes, we certainly have a market study that supports that. It's very clear.
So how are you determining your median income?
Use the mic, Leon, please.
How do you determine your median income? Probably best without the mic. How do you determine your
We don't. Federal government does.
And they're basing it on,
every year.
they're basing it on a 3-unit family?
No. I think if you go back, may I go back
mentioned something
to the
about
chart?
Because the units are 1-bedroom,
There are 1s, 2s, and 3s.
but you discussed medium income for Mobile, and you described 3 for a 3-family unit.
There's a Mark, let her answer, please.
Is this the slides you're talking about? Yeah. If you go, and I can certainly make copies and hand it out, but you can certainly go to Novogradac website, and you can look for rent and income limits, and they'll give you multitude you can type in 5 bedrooms. You have such a thing.
Specific for Mobile?
Yes, they're for all the communities throughout the nation.
So what does it say for 1 person?
1 person depending upon the income, right? 30%. If someone says I'm 30%, if your limitation is 30%, AMI is area median income. Okay? So 30% of area median income, a 1 person is $13,740.
How much?
$13,740.
So
That's probably a senior citizen getting a disability check.
Exactly. That's a threshold.
Correct.
For those.
So these are, and you can also get
So the
80.
majority of the units are single-bedroom units.
We have 1s and 2s and 2, 3, so those are kind of irrelevant.
Yeah,
Correct.
3 those don't count. So the
What's the
majority.
breakdown of the 1s and 2s? 76 1s, 36 2s.
76 1-bedroom units. And what's the threshold for maximum income allowed for those 76 units?
We have 50s and 60s.
Yeah, 50s and 60s.
So it would be those 2 income limits for 1 bedroom. So if it was 1 person, and you could have 2 people living in
Yes.
1 bedroom, that's allowed. You could have multiple, or you could have a most of our units are 60%, so you would have somebody that could earn up to 27,480.
27,000 annual income.
That's correct.
Yeah. $13 to $15 an hour is what
Right.
you're talking
Correct.
about. $13 to
So
$15
this
an hour.
isn't really directed toward the service industry. It's people working downtown.
It's directed toward, that's correct.
It's not. That's what I said.
It is. It's for lower wage jobs.
Not for service industry.
Well, I'm not sure how you're defining service industry. I really,
People who work in the restaurants, the bars, the entertainment, neighborhood.
the lower wage folks in those industries, yes, would qualify. So you're saying you make more than that?
Are you kidding?
Okay.
Even posted jobs right now, look them
Yeah.
up, and there's not
Yes,
one.
there's no question. There is going to be a
What did you
level
just
of
say?
income that,
So the majority of it will not be directed towards those individuals that work downtown.
we believe that there are many folks that work downtown that make these wages.
Who are?
Right.
Let's
Whoa,
go back.
whoa, whoa, let's be polite, dog.
You discussed that.
Because they don't know. Wait, Leon. They don't know who makes what. This is projected on an area, okay? Sure. So those numbers, all she can give you is what she's projected. So let's not be
You did have
rude.
a slide that you were talking about. What
Yes,
the
and
majority
that was
of
from the
downtown.
Alabama.
What was that? What in that on that slide? What percentage of those people would qualify for the one-bedroom units?
I think all of them.
All of them would.
Wayne, calm down.
This one?
Well, you said that you had.
This was our source, Alabama Department of Labor. And we have an independent market study that also verifies. This is today.
Next question, right next to you.
I would like to know what jobs you're specifically talking about that make that amount of.
Refer to you this, and I can certainly share our market study with you.
That's not specific to what I'm asking. That's just a general. Say again. Okay. Okay, that's one example.
As a entry-level city employee, there's the last several city jobs that I've applied for. It starts out at $13 an hour. That was working for the housing board. That was working for the water board. That's working for a lot of the different city departments.
But you still might qualify.
Hey, I can't even control this, all right? We're here to answer all your questions. We're not here to bicker over how much is made where, who makes what, at what job. We're trying to answer questions. Next question, please.
We're just trying to understand who this would serve. I don't see it serving downtown specifically. It seems to me like it would be jobs coming from outside of downtown to live in downtown. So it kind of doesn't make too much sense. The majority of people that work downtown make more than that. So they wouldn't qualify to live here.
That's fair.
So I don't see how it benefits the people that actually work downtown. The majority of people work downtown.
That's fair statement.
And again, the biggest reason for this question is we're looking at healthcare, social assistance, transport, warehouse, and it doesn't seem like either of those jobs would qualify.
They would be
Y'all
for
told me
income,
to
that is
shut it
correct.
down, please.
I mean, they're $1,200 a year wouldn't qualify for anything unless they had 10 kids.
No, that's a
I mean,
weekly.
$1,200 a week
That's a
puts you over
weekly.
$50,000. I mean,
And that's correct, so they would not qualify.
so what we're talking about is building, grounds, clean maintenance, and level. And like I said, here recently, but can you tell me what the process is? You've got your $9 an hour job. You get a wage increase to say $10 an hour. Are you evicted? Is there a rolling scale?
No, you want to address that?
All right, so once you are in your income qualified initially, once you're placed into the system, you're income qualified. Now, the only time that you can be disqualified with income is when you are initially coming in. Now, if someone has already met the program qualifications and they're in the program, you're qualified. Now, as time goes on, there will be those inadvertent situations that will cause you to be over income. Say, for instance, you get a
job becoming the CEO of the Fortune 500. Go figure. Those are going to be those extenuating circumstances. It's very far and few in between where we walk up to you and say, okay, you have to move out. It's very far and few in between. So, again, as you stated, once you move in, you're qualified initially with those tax credits, then we move forward with the process. There isn't a lot of people lose focus, so let me help you real quick for a second. A lot of people lose focus on the amount of money that someone makes. At the end of the day, what we want to do is provide quality housing to everybody. No matter if you make $9 an hour or $9 million, our job is we're focusing on those people that are not as, and I won't say for a better term of words, the people who are not as privileged as everyone else to make $50,000 to $60,000 a year. Our goal is affordable housing, and affordable housing is for everyone. It doesn't matter if you have a job working downtown. I do believe the comment was made, are we focusing just on downtown? We're focusing on everyone who wants housing. Because if we don't, that would be a fair housing violation. So we want to make sure that what we do is we follow those guidelines that have been set, not by GCHP, not by the city of Mobile, but by the IRS as it relates to the tax code and how we are to govern ourselves throughout the process.
When this project was first brought to the public eye, it was like explained to be a benefit to the people that do work downtown. That's why we have our concerns. And now it sounds like that's not exactly what it's for, so it just seems a little misleading. Because we were under the impression at first it was supposed to be for service industry people, and it doesn't sound like that's the actual case.
Well, we can't speak to what you may have heard from third parties, honestly.
Yeah, and we hope to be placing housing again, affordability, our
I can
market
hear you.
still taking the area.
Let me get him first and we'll come back.
But our market study is examining the area, there's a very strong need for housing in the market area that can't afford to live elsewhere in the market area. And the idea is part of it is, so we talk about benefits, you're talking about getting rid of that blighted building, you're talking about tax reducing property, you're talking about a lot of other benefits, historic preservation on top of the people that we're really about trying to hide. But you hope, and this is what affordable housing is partially about, that you are taking people and allowing them to live in high opportunity areas so that they are no longer affordable housing. They don't need affordable housing anymore. That's part of it. And so those people having an opportunity to work in close proximity to jobs, you hope that that's improving their lives and they're able to become more affluent as time passes.
You had mentioned before that, well, I have two questions. You have 95 units and you have and some are two family. And this they had cars. You have parking for that many cars downtown?
Yes.
You do? Okay.
Parking both on the ground floor, covered in the building, and then there's a surface lot outside the building. How many spaces? We'll look it up for you. Yeah, we'll look it up for you, give you that answer.
Is it one per unit or?
No, it's not one per unit. We'll look at you the number.
Did you hear that answer? He said it's about 55.
But then my next question is, what about well, these are those you had before. So now, I recall that years ago when they had these projects in Mobile so much closed. And those areas, these low-income families moved out to like Azalea Road. And now Azalea Road right now is like my God, like they're closing down gas stations and all because of the rental store hotel. So now, what was the increase in crime, or what's the increase in crime on these previous developments?
No, as a matter of fact, I actually took the slide off because I thought it'd be too much information. But this Rebecca Castle Haley Boulevard is fascinating. Okay, we hired a firm out of DC, Place Economics, to study what the impact of the investment was on Rebecca Castle Haley. And in fact, crime went down, voter participation went up, building procurement soared, and in fact, people moved into the neighborhood without displacing the folks that were already there. We're having that study updated. It was completed in 2018. We've re-engaged Place Economics to see, because we've done more investment since then, and right now we're building 192 more units. Okay? And then we're also engaging them to do the same study in Mid-City.
She said before, she said that the approval was done for certain things, blah, blah, blah. But apparently there was something that was not been approved. What is not been approved on this plan?
Oh, we were still negotiating with the National Park Service. They govern what happens to the building. Okay, and the way it works in any state, you have to go through the State Historic Preservation Office first. Okay, and so you're bringing to them what you'd like to do to the building. There's a lot of give and take, and frequently they are also then having to get guidance from the National Park Service. And you continue this dance until everybody is satisfied. The biggest everybody has to be the National Park Service. So we believe we're almost there. We have filed the amendments, but it's not done yet. And when it is done, then we will make all those plans public, and folks will be able to see what the National Park Service has approved.
Let's back over here at the table. I'm sorry, you were next. And then after you, we come right here, and then look Leon, if you have a follow-up, we'll go back. I want to catch some new people first. So we'll go sort of back here, over here, over the hand. I guess we'll go back there after that.
Hey, good evening, everybody. My name is Robert Kennedy Jr. First of all, thank you guys for having this public session. I've been listening for almost an hour, and I can't quite get my head around two things that continue to be left in my mind. You guys hear me okay? Yeah. Two things that continue to run through my mind.
Is this better? There are two things that continue to run through my mind. The first is there's about testing. There's about $8 million in public money that's going into this particular initiative. If the building at some point in time gets sold, does that money end up going back to the city?
Yes, it does. I'm glad you asked the question. Okay?
Sure. And the second question is, there's a lot of concern right now about the increases in rent that is happening over time. So what assurances exist that if folks actually go into there at a rate that exists today, that they won't be priced out in the future?
Yeah, that's also a very good question. We don't set rents. Okay? The government, federal government, every year, they issue what the rental increase can be. In some cases, the rents go down. They do a survey of incomes in the vicinity, and they issue every year what your rent limits are by each income tranche.
I heard you say that you guys did a study, but the people here want to know where were these people that was part of the study, because we've seen the city of Mobile let the lower income people practically rot, and we expect to have confidence in them with this particular project. Everybody here seems to be lost as far as a study and what's really going on. We feel like this is just an opportunity for people like the mayor to push his personal agenda, because they have not included a lot of people in what these studies are supposed to be. So we would like to see that, because we've seen millions of dollars unaccounted for right here in Mobile, Alabama, and it almost seems like it's always a done deal before the people are aware of what's going on.
I can't speak to what studies the city may have done. What we engage is a third party that conducts a market study that says, yes, there is a market for this, or no, there's not. So this is not a study by the city. This is not a study done by us. This is we engage a third party who does a market study. Any developer knows in this room that we need a market study to validate whether or not it really is what you're thinking about feasible and viable or not.
Yeah, I would mention too that the city did issue a request for proposal. That's where this $8 million comes from.
He said that the the city issued a request for proposal, then that's where the $8 million came from.
Yeah, it was a public request for proposals that the city put out. However they do that, it's a public offering, and they asked for proposals with the pots of funds they had. And again, we responded to the proposals. We can't speak to what happened.
It's still a proposed study.
Well, to be honest, the council has not voted to give them $8 million yet. What you are seeing tonight is them presenting the project to you, for you to tell me whether or not this project is viable and something we want to do on Dolphin Street. This has not been finalized. Let me get this straight. This has not been finalized. This is so that you guys can have input into whether or not this is a viable project. Cassandra, you got one right here, and then we'll come across the lane, and then we'll come back up the back way right here next to Leon, and then back to you.
Being an educator for 38 years, my big concern is about families with children. You're going to have this wonderful place. I'm all for it. Don't get me wrong. I love the idea that we can have something downtown to boost it and make it like walkable like it is in Atlanta. But I also know what the downfall is because I watched it happen from 2000 to the time I retired and moved back home in 2016 and how everything got moved down. When I look at the Mobile County schools, which I worked in, I worked with the superintendent within ASCP, I'm the education chair. I look at the schools around here, magnet school, they're middle and high. Florence Howard. That means they would have to walk. Now, what would they walk through? Where are the playgrounds? The English Square? Where's the bicycles? Where's the playground equipment? So when you say it's family oriented, it really isn't. It's fine for maybe single couples with one baby that hasn't grown up, that's going to be going to school age. So this is a big concern of mine. Where are they going to be playing safely? Where can they walk safely? And what kind of insurance did they do? I mean, if you come and say this is fine, and some of those, that's fine. But families, I question.
Well, I mean, primarily you are one-bedroom units, right? And so, primarily you are one-bedroom units. So, it's interesting in the affordable housing world, you have 55 and disabled projects, and you have family projects. But I think that kind of gets misconstrued sometimes that a family project means 4-bedroom units and extended families and all of those types of things. So you could certainly have some families and some children and everything here at this development, but I think that kind of gets misconstrued because it's only two categories. It's 55 and disabled, and then everything else is called family. And again, families are welcome, it's fair housing, but I wouldn't say that's necessarily your target in the
It's working. I'm really loud too, so I can also yell. How much of this project is funded with governmental funds, federally down to the local level?
Sorry, I heard how much of it funded with federal funds?
All governmental.
It's $8 million.
Well, 8 from the city. And then there's state and the federal housing, the housing.
No, the only, I'm not sure what the source of the mobile housing board money is, but the federal money from the city is the $8 million.
Well,
the rest of it is tax credit equity.
Yeah, tax credits. Yeah. So 4.2 isn't funded or in some way subsidized by the government?
No, $4.2 million is coming from the local bank.
4.2. So that's about $300,000 per unit that is being, well, it's the low income housing tax credit, the federal housing
tax credit, the state housing tax credit, the city of Mobile, the Mobile Housing Board is about 30 million. And then if you divide it by 95 units, this seems like a huge investment for a 500 square foot, 95 unit building.
Well, I beg to differ. This is what it costs.
Well, Meridian Deployed Work costs about 54 million and 4 million in credits, and they made money with like 200 units.
Tom, talk to the mic.
The tax credit equity that you see, both on the state historic equity and the LIHTC equity, those are not federal funds. Those are private investors that are purchasing those tax credits that are issued by the IRS. And those are not federal dollars. Those are, again, these are private investors. They're sold to banks, they're sold to insurance companies, and those are not federal. That federal dollars are your $8 million that you see from American government tax.
No, I'm a Jewish Yankee. I don't need a microphone.
We can't hear you. I can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
No. I can't hear you.
So my question is for Director Troy to you. I know you are a city councilman, and I know the group that I've come here with. I live about 2 miles from here. Got my first house about 2 years ago. I work in the RSA and have been 9 years. I don't want this project. I knew that. When I started reading everything about it, I thought it would be happy. I've not really learned much more here to convince me. So my question to you as a city councilman, what would it take for those of us here that necessarily don't want this project to happen? What would we need to do? How many signatures? Do we need petitions? Do we need to stand up and picket signs? What do we need to do to certainly make sure that we're right there is a large portion of downtown citizens and midtown citizens that don't want this to happen?
All right, she asked me what it would take for this project not to happen. To be honest, if the community doesn't want it, it's not going to happen. All right, that's why I asked y'all here tonight. Because I was coming to you guys with this after I saw it, because I actually think it's a good project. The answer to that question is does it fit the community? Is it the right time? Does it fit the atmosphere, what we're trying to do downtown? And is it in a depressed area that has been depressed for a long time? And does it serve those that ARPA was set out to serve in the guidelines of the federal government? But before I could get it to y'all, it was placed on the agenda by the administration, so I didn't have a chance to get it out and hear your voices. That's why this meeting was most important. So if the people of this city say it doesn't fit downtown right now, then it won't happen downtown right now. So that's why we're here to listen. That's why we've asked them to come. That's why we're doing what we're doing tonight. Now the question is, if we don't do this project, can the project be still done by another developer? Does the developer still hold on to the property and continue to look for the money that bridges the gap to make the project happen? And can we use that $8 million somewhere else within the time limit that we have to spend it in the ARPA guidelines? That's the question to answer. That's the question to answer. So the question is that if you don't get that $1 million, do you find that $1 million somewhere else? Does that money go away forever? That's the first question. Yeah.
Don't know.
You don't know. So she rightfully doesn't know. They've had the building for 10 years. They've owned it for 10 years.
No, we have not. We purchased it in mid-2015.
So
7 years.
6.5 years.
6.5 years. They've owned it for 6.5 years, and over that time they've been looking for financing to put this deal together. So they've been working pretty hard to get to this point. Now, do they get to it right now? I don't know. Do they get to it in the future? Possibly. Do they do something else here? I don't know either. And that's what she's saying. Okay? I got to catch a few more questions. I'm not going to answer that question right now because I'm listening to the whole community, and I'm not going to base my answer on one response tonight. But I can tell you that if the community doesn't want the project, then it won't be a project. So don't beat me up for an answer tonight. Okay? There was a few more hands back there. In fact, Mark, you have a few. Let me get a few more.
Here, will in my business be subject to being redistricted? Years ago on Dolphin Street, there was a place called the Alabama Music Box that somebody didn't like, and it got redistricted, and it got turned into residential rather than entertainment. I have 2 music venues within 1 block of this venture here. Am I going to be subject to any scrutiny or anything? Am I going to have things happen to me now that weren't like noise violations or whatnot? Because they weren't there when I invested a bunch of money in this place.
You talking about Soul Kitchen?
No, I own the Merry Widow and Alabama Music Box.
Music Box.
We're back. I wasn't part of the first one, but
I can't do that dance anymore, you know. What he wants to know is, will the building have enough sound and attention in it?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, there are ventures like this right next to the Sanger Theater in New Orleans.
I guess my question is more directed to you, Councilman.
Ask again.
Am I going to be subject to scrutiny?
Well, her STC rating, being that she is a new building, should be high enough to prevent sound transmission through the walls. Okay? She's a brand new building if it happens. So her STC rating should prevent the types of problems that we have in the high end of Dolphin Street with vibratory noise.
All right. It's good enough for now, but we got this on record, right? I got another few more things. Other than income criteria, will there be like criminal background checks?
We do credit and criminal checks on all applicants.
Will local businesses do the construction? Will local businesses do the construction?
Yes, we hope so.
All right. Hope so. You hope so?
We hope so. We bid everything out.
All right. Does any city leader or councilman have anything to gain from this project?
Not to my knowledge.
All right.
I saw 4 hands in the back. Brian, you have a question? No? All right. I didn't see it. Mr. Reno,
Hey, quick question about sustainability. You got to do a lot of new construction. Are you going to be using sustainable materials? And the number 2, are these going to be efficient units? What kind of efficiency standards are you going to be measuring?
I can't quote the standard unless Tom knows, but everything we build is built to a standard. Okay? I'm not sure which one we're building this one to.
We're low VOC, we're all Energy Star, basically within these programs. You have to hit a pretty high level to do that intensity. Yeah, it's all. I'm just saying, that's better. We are low VOC, we're Energy Star. We may be enterprise green on this project, but yes, to answer your question, it will all be done environmentally friendly, energy efficient, and as resilient as we can do within the apartment, within the National Park Service guidelines in terms of windows and stormproof windows.
Hey, there was a question online that asked, will the government be paying the rent for some of the apartments or some of the units? There are 19 vouchers included in this development. 19 vouchers that are given by the housing board, where the housing board will be paying or providing vouchers for 19 units. 19 out of 95. So yes, some will have a voucher system for it. Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
My question is, so what is your procedure? You have all of these one-bedroom apartments, but multiple family members move into this apartment. So now you've got more than just your
Yes.
oversee that?
There'll be a property manager on site, property management offices are on site. Okay, so yes, that's a very serious police violation. You know, we do not want that to happen.
Basically, hold on, let me tell y'all, would it be y'all J45?
Just to give you a little bit more clarity with the lease violation, what happens is we have to tell a story. So if someone violates the lease, you can't just walk up and say you have to get out. You have to follow the rules of the court within the local municipality. You have to document, tell a story from A to Z. When you get to court, it's not our decision to put them out. It has to be the local municipality, being whether it's the magistrate or the judge. Because if that was the case, there'd be a lot of people that people would just throw out. So we have to follow the letter of the law. As being fair housing participants, we have to make sure that we follow that standard and that setting.
In essence, what would happen, it'd be a lease violation, we file for eviction, and whatever happens here, we go to court, we argue our case. But they would not be permitted to say unless your court system said we had to keep them there.
I'm sure I missed some of the initial discussion. Asked the question about the initial inception of the project. How did it come about? What was the process for selecting developers, and what is the intent, overall intent of the project?
Well, you didn't select the developer, we bought the building. Okay, and we are affordable housing developers, so we bought it with the intention of putting affordable housing there. That's always been our intention, and it will continue to be our intention. We believe there are many people in this community, at least 95, that earn low wages and deserve a quality place to live. I don't find that hard to understand, and I hope most of you do too.
Excuse me, Mayor Jones, you finished? You got more questions? Let's get out. Finish up. Hey, ask. It's an open meeting. Ask.
The reason I asked that question is some of the questions that were asked here tonight lead me to believe that people who actually operate downtown, have businesses downtown, have some questions about whether your income guideline, the amount of housing that's available to certain levels of income, whether they're going to be adequate to fill the need. We really lost a lot of housing around the downtown area, and I thought that one of the concepts was to actually fill that need.
Put in the plain language, we lost a lot of minority people downtown. When we lost Rodney Williams, Ann Florence, Orange Grove, we're going to lose RV. The question is that will this facility also provide needs for the minority community? And if so, how much of the community will it provide a resource? That's the question.
This facility will house all qualifying applicants, regardless of the color of their skin. The bulk of our residents throughout our portfolio are African American, followed by Caucasians, followed by Hispanic. I don't know why Mobile would be any different.
So basically what we're hearing is
The question I was asking is, there is a tremendous need for housing in the downtown area. And I'm asking if it was determined that this development would feed substantially address that need. We're mute because I can't understand what you're saying.
Yes, sir. He's asking, is this property, is this development replacing lost affordable housing? And the answer is yes.
We appear to be going around in a circle. I think it's a very simple way to know whether the public is for or against the project is just to have a voice vote, right? You want to know, so what does the public think?
I'll ask it, is the public for this? If you're for it, put your hands up. If you're against it, put your hands up. Alright, so the majority, who's indifferent? Who's indifferent? So, most of the room is against it, a few are for it, and a few are against it. A few are indifferent.
Testing. Oh, okay. All right. Cool. Not really quite a question. Just to say, I've lived here just outside of downtown and worked just outside of in downtown for about 5 years. I have relatives that go just off disability income that can't work. That this would be great for. I have made lower than $10 an hour in the past 5 years, so I still know what that feels like. I've got friends that make $10 to $11 an hour. That this would be great for. Not everybody has a car, so yeah, there's not a parking spot per unit, but that's okay. Not everybody has a car and they still get by these days. They don't have to make money on these units because they're a nonprofit. There's that. I think, hell, there was one more thing I was going to say too. Who can I will speak with less pep. Taking a show of hands at this meeting is one way to do it, but also we got to think about who can actually afford and have the time off to be here right now as well. There's going to be people that do work 9 to 5 that might come incensed about affordable housing coming in. So there's a lot of people that have to work a couple jobs that can't work full-time anywhere because no one wants to give full-time and benefits anymore. That can't afford time-wise or money-wise to be here right now. So of course I'm going to be here to fight back against it. And if I can, what do I got to do to one-up the person earlier that said, what can we do to make it not happen? I would one-up them to make it happen. We need affordable housing. Tower and Ryan Park got renovated. And I had a friend get priced out of there because they raised the rents too much. And all of the units that I've seen come through, the Wheeler Building, Meridian at the Port, I think even Old Show losses outside of downtown, but they're all starting to get above $1,000 a month. I think this does replace units that I've seen get lost in downtown. And I know people in my life that I care about a lot that would like to have a spot like that to live and not live like forward to a house out of Old Dolphin Way or whatever. That's it.
Hey, let me rephrase that question one more time. If the $8 billion came from another source, who would be for this project? If the city didn't have it was an independent developer or an independent investor that gave $8 billion to this project, would you be for it then? No. Huh? You might. What I said is that if the additional $8 million came from a different funding source for the same project, then who would be for it? Would you all be for it then? Yes or no? Yes. So you still would? All right. If it was market rate, would people be for it? If there was market rate,
company's record with BB and minority contractors in your projects. I'm for development of, also that this economy gets the impact and our minority contractors and people get jobs and opportunities that come along with it. And the second part of the question have you thought about, or your organization thought about partnering up with maybe a local church or a local organization to get their input because they kind of have the pulse of the community?
Yeah.
Can you answer those two questions for
I
me?
certainly will. With regard to the first question, absolutely. Okay, absolutely. Just about every venture we do, we build into our contracts that there is a set aside. EBEs, at least 35% is our target. Okay, and we keep our folks' feet to the fire. It's, you know, we have on-site construction meetings. It is in the minutes of each meeting. What's the percentage that week? Okay, why don't we have enough participation? And then your second question, what? Yes, you know, yes, sir. Yep, we are a partnering organization. I think in our history we have partnered with 70 different organizations. So yes, we would partner with churches and other service providers to make sure that the needs of our residents are being met.
So when you say 35% ED, you talking about for the 8 million or for the entire 32?
No, for the construction contract.
Like a 45.
Yes.
You kept bringing up the market study. Do you want to publish that?
On his stomach again.
One of the questions I have, probably should be directed more to William back there, is I have a concern about the wages in this neighborhood. As so many people have spoken, you know, over the past few years, they've been able to push those wages up for the lower income in the downtown community. And having 95 units, kind of where people have a cap on what they can earn. I'm worried that that's going to affect how many people are there basically competing for jobs where they have to make less than $12 an hour.
No, sir. I think you're. How can I put this? I understand people's angst. I understand there's a lack of affordable housing for many income ranges. And I understand that there are folks in this audience who make more, right, than the folks that will be able to live in this building. I get it, loud and clear, okay? But to folks living in this building are folks that earn those lower incomes. They're not going to depress your wages. Their ambition is to raise their income.
And again, like we discussed, there's not going to be instantly move from $10 an hour, $12 an hour. You got 6 months to get out.
No,
Once
sir,
you're in the
that's not the
system,
way it works. You have to qualify to get in, but then you, as long as you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, you stay there. Yes, ma'am.
Any others that
I got the tough questions.
Anybody else that's like to ask a question?
That's why y'all.
I want to bring. I want to bring this to the attention of the developer.
No, it's not.
I'm looking at the project finance. I see the Mobile Housing Board and what they are putting up toward the finance. I sit on the Resident Advisory Board. Never did we have a meeting concerning none of this. So that's a violation itself. If you report it to us.
Yeah, again, I can't address that. I don't know if anybody from the Mobile Housing Board is here.
Level
Look out, look out.
There goes Uncle 45. 45 got so many questions. White 45.
No, it's white out.
That's white 45.
Good evening. Thank you. My name is Paul Watkins. I'm actually with the Housing Authority, the Housing Choice Voucher Program Administrator. $1 million, as you see there, one, it's a loan. Two, the Housing Authority has funds that we can contribute to projects like this because we believe in affordable housing. we're the housing authority. So we want
Man, if my
to
sunroof look like that, I just gonna get a bald
housing
head like me.
across all bedroom sizes, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom, and so forth. We have a lot of need
You just gotta let
for
it go.
affordable housing in our community. So we certainly want to support and provide opportunities for families. That's why we have vouchers that are also going in there to support the opportunity for families to move into areas, as was mentioned earlier, of high opportunity. And so the Housing Authority has funds that are HUD approved. HUD like supports affordable housing. That's what HUD does. Supports affordable housing, the creation of new affordable housing, the preservation of old affordable housing. That's the goal. And so with a project like this, $1 million, that's an easy win for HUD to say, yes, we want more affordable housing. Housing Authority, that's the clientele you serve. And if you have an opportunity to invest funds to create more affordable housing, then we absolutely should do it. That's actually not a requirement, but we can talk about that later. We actually have a meeting with the RAD board tomorrow, so if you'd like to discuss it, we can bring it. One more.
Any questions from that, Brian? We're going to take a few more questions to get close to 8 o'clock.
White 45 got some more questions.
Before the questions asked, how many people have my email address to continue to say yay or nay?
Nay.
You got my email address?
If they answer me, might as well. Thank y'all for your tune in. Big y'all, Big 45 morning show.
There was a concern of whether we are actually, that building is qualified for ARP funds, seeing as it is located in Census Tract number 2. And so my question is, have y'all done your due diligence to make sure that this is qualified for ARP funds?
I'm going to refer that question to the city. They are the government over the ARP funds.
Well, I can't answer it right now, but I do know that downtown is not as economically depressed as it used to be. And I do know that according to the ARPA guidelines that I've read over and over and over again, some of the boxes are questionable when you check. You know, does it meet the economic impact, or does the area meet the economic impact that's required? Is it meeting not the census tract, but the census group that ARPA is supposed to be helping, which was the groups that were the most affected by ARPA? So there's some gray in there. There is some gray. But is it about that's shovel ready? The answer to that is yes.
Hi. One of the things I wanted to say was, if it wasn't raining right now, I could, in 30 minutes, bring you 95 tenants that meet that income bracket, that are downtown right now working in kitchens, playing in bands, working in the hotels and restaurants that we eat at every day. 10 years ago, I was in that income bracket, and I'm lucky not to be in it now. But at the time, half the buildings in downtown were boarded. And they were boarded because they cost more to renovate than anyone could ever make out of them. So it is not lost on me how important and how much we need a nonprofit that is willing to come in and invest way more than you could ever hope to get back. Every community needs upward mobility. Every community needs affordable housing because that's the only way that you can grow. Wealth that stays in one place does not grow. And I'm really happy you're here.
Other than 19 vouchers that you discussed at the beginning,
Back with White 45. White 45 report.
There a fee that a resident brings a subsidy with them, or an organization provides a subsidy to a resident, but nothing that we find out. We're not service providers. We'll partner with the service
We call him white 45.
particularly when we're doing ventures with special needs populations.
No, they don't.
But normally, as the gentleman had suggested earlier, if we have residents that are really truly in need beyond what their own incomes can help them with, we're going to reach out to organizations like the church, etc., to get them some help. The last thing we want to do is throw somebody out on the street. But we expect you to pay your rent. We expect you to follow your lease rules. We expect if you have a job that you're going to your job and that you can pay your rent. I mean, it really is that simple. These folks are no different than anybody else in this room. They just can't afford what everybody else can afford. And some folks here, I can't afford what people that make more than me can. One size does not fit all. However, there are enough people in this community that need quality housing. And I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Kathy. Let me first thank you guys for coming out. Thank you for coming over to New Orleans to do this presentation for us. Again, I know a lot of you in this room tonight. If I don't know most of you, most of us in this room tonight are not the economic demographic that building would be serving. Most of us, when I look around, come from established families, developers, builders. Some of us make more than $200,000 a year.
I don't make 20.
Let's make You can ask. You can ask.
That go 145 again. He just won't be quiet.
You can ask or talk to the developers after the meeting. Can you please wait, Mark? Because I'm trying to get started. I'm about to give everybody that information, Mark, if you would be patient. Okay. So tonight, there are a lot of people in the room that provide the service or buildings or build the type of facilities that are needed. There are also some of us in this room tonight that have built market value rates and also luxury facilities that are downtown and near the downtown. So if you think that the facility is going to bring down the value of another development, then we may have to reconsider that. Sometimes we got to consider the small guys. We don't know what the building or the element is going to bring. All that is speculation that we might be thinking that's coming to the community. We're asked all the time to help those that can't help themselves and to talk up to those that can't speak for themselves. But tonight in this room, me included, I'm one of those people that would not qualify. And when I look up and down these aisles, most of us don't qualify. So what are we willing to do to help those that need affordable housing? The project is a good project. Is it in the right place? That's a question. Is it in the right census tract? That's also a question. Does it meet all the criteria? ARPA? I don't know yet. I'm not 100% satisfied. But I do know that in District 2, we've got to do something about affordable housing. We have to. So that's the question. The developer has their contact information and cards up front. They have one that if you need it, please get it. They are online at GHCP. .net. If you left your email address at the counter, I have the presentation that was presented tonight in our constant contacts, and it will be emailed to you so that you would have it. Their contact information is also in the presentation so that you would have it. So again, I appreciate everybody coming out tonight, and And I appreciate the staff for always coming out when you can. And everybody, Mario, everybody for streaming this live. This is all tonight. If you have additional questions, please email us, please. I'll put these to the cell. We will continue to answer your questions up until the time.
We the boys. You hear that? We the good boys.
We say the boys here.
Okay.
We call y'all the J boys.
Thank you for the presentation, man. Thank y'all for being tuned in to the Big Y'all J45 Live Morning Show. Yeah. Hope y'all had fun watching the White 45 get mad back there. Man, he cut. Look,
that's Callahan.
He tried to get crunk, man. No, that's all. That's all. No, what the motherfucker name? That's what the full name is? This is Zygmuth Jackson. Anyway, man, y'all know what to do, man. Vote Moshe for DA. Big Y'all J45 Live Morning Show, man. Thank Councilman William Carroll for having this presentation to inform the citizens of what's going on in District 2 in the city of Mobile. Thank y'all for being tuned in. Okay.
And don't forget to get the tickets for Gucci Man, Moneybag, and Gulf Coast Band.
PBE Pluto, C9,
Spainly, Ziggy, and MJ, Manny Fresh, going down the side.
And then the after party at Fantasies in Irvington, Gentleman Club with the porn star, Gemini Lavelle. Big Dog Security on deck. Y'all pull up.
Who that?
Roll Tide.